Washington, several Senate Democrats from swing states joined with Republicans Friday to clear the final hurdle to passing the Laken-Riley Act, which would require U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement to detain non-citizens who commit certain crimes. It comes after a bruising election season for Democrats, who lost both the White House and Senate and failed to flip the House. Democrats from key swing states have argued it's time for the party to do more to address voters' concerns on immigration. The Senate voted 61 to 35 to advance the bill, clearing the 60-vote threshold necessary to overcome the filibuster. The chamber plans to pass the bill on Monday, and will only need a majority vote at that time. It will then go back to the House, where it will likely be approved, before sending it to President-elect Donald Trump's desk to be signed. The bill would require federal officials to detain immigrants in the country illegally who have been charged with or convicted of theft-related crimes. It's named after a 22-year-old nursing student who was murdered by a Venezuelan immigrant in Georgia in February 2024. House Republicans have been pushing the legislation since March of last year, but it was not taken up by the then democratically controlled Senate. ICE is already authorized to detain non-citizens with final removal orders, as well as those charged with or convicted of a crime. Under the Biden administration, ICE has been asked to focus its limited resources on non-citizens with serious criminal records or those who represent a public safety or national security threat. With an annual budget of $9 billion, ICE's roughly 6,000 enforcement and removal officers manage a caseload of more than 7 million non-citizens, including more than 662,000 with criminal convictions or charges. The agency's detention capacity is sharply limited. There are 41,500 congressionally funded beds in ICE detention centers nationwide. Immigrant and civil liberties advocates raised concerns over the bill's provisions that would require ICE agents to detain broad categories of non-citizens and give states the right to sue its parent agency, the Department of Homeland Security, if ICE fails to do so. This legislation overrides the discretion that individual immigration officers and judges have about who is a risk to the community or a flight risk, said Sarah Mehta, senior policy counsel at the ACLU in New York. The 10 Democratic senators who joined with their GOP counterparts to advance the bill were largely from swing states, Senators Catherine Cortez Masto of New Mexico, Ruben Gallego and Mark Kelly of Arizona, Maggie Hassan and Jean Shaheen of New Hampshire, John Ossoff of Georgia, Gary Peters and Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan, Jackie Rosen of Nevada, and Mark Warner of Virginia. Arizonans know better than most the real consequences of today's border crisis, Gallego said in a post on X. Controversial that they all need to go, Fetterman told Fox News earlier this month. Asked whether immigration was the biggest issue in the election, he said, "I think if we can't pull up with 7 votes to overcome the filibuster, then that's one of the reasons why we lost." Senior Patty Murray, Democrat Washington, the top Democrat on the Senate Appropriations Committee, said Thursday the bill will cost up to $83 billion in the first 3 years to implement, more than Homeland Security's current annual budget. Laura St. John, legal director at the Florence Immigrant and Refugee Rights Project, called the bill dangerous and unprecedented in a statement earlier this month. This bill would require the government to imprison an entire class of people, in this case, undocumented immigrants, without any right to a bond hearing or individualized assessment with a judge based on mere allegations of wrongdoing, she said. In October, the American Immigration Council estimated it could cost $88 billion to deport